The latest escalation in the Middle East began after the United States launched fresh attacks on Iran. Iran's foreign ministry has condemned what it called unlawful and criminal attacks by Washington, saying the strikes have effectively made the April 8th ceasefire meaningless. Tehran says the US has violated the UN Charter and international law and has warned it will act to neutralize the source of attacks against Iran. But Washington is also raising the stakes. US President Donald Trump has said his administration is talking to Iran, but he would prefer to take control of Kharag Island, Iran's key oil export hub. Speaking to Fox News, Trump said that he would rather not hit bridges or power plants, but warned that more US attacks are coming and that they would be bigger and more powerful. On Truth Social, he also repeated the claim that Iran's military capabilities have been destroyed. Iran's response has been blunt. Ibrahim Razai, spokesperson for the National Security Commission of Iran's parliament, wrote that America must surrender, saying Trump has only two paths: surrender or surrender. But consequences are now being felt well beyond Iran. Kuwait says its armed forces dealt with 24 hostile drones inside its airspace over the past 48 hours. Officials say the attacks caused limited material damage, but no casualties. The UAE has condemned what it called hostile Iranian missiles and drone attacks on Bahrain, Kuwait and Jordan, calling them a violation of sovereignty and a threat to regional stability. Saudi Arabia has also condemned Iran's retaliatory attacks, saying they will only worsen tensions. Riyadh is calling for de-escalation and the return to diplomacy, including talks mediated by Pakistan and Qatar. Qatar has also condemned the attacks on Jordan, Kuwait and Bahrain, calling them a breach of international law and saying the region must be spared from further unjust attacks. That regional concern is now turning into a wider international alarm. Iran's Foreign Ministry Abbas Araghchi spoke to UAE Foreign Policy Chief Khaja Khalas, condemning the US attacks and warning that silence from the international community would only increase insecurity. China has called for all military operations in the Middle East to stop immediately, urging all sides to return to a dialogue and work towards a lasting ceasefire. Russia is also urging restraint. The Kremlin says Washington and Tehran must return to negotiations, warning that further escalation could have serious consequences for the region and the global economy. Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan has said both Iran and the US must stop their renewed attacks and resume talks. Pakistan is also staying diplomatically engaged. Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar spoke to Turkey's Foreign Minister, with both sides stressing dialogue, restraint, and the need for early understanding among all parties. But while diplomacy continues, the conflict is already disrupting one of the world's most sensitive maritime corridors. US Central Command says it disabled a third commercial vessel this week after it allegedly violated the blockade against Iran by trying to transport Iranian oil through the Gulf of Oman. CENTCOM says US aircraft fired 2 Hellfire missiles into the engine room of the Guinea-Bissau flagged oil tanker Jalveer after the crew allegedly failed to comply with US directions. The US military says 9 non-compliant vessels have been disabled since the blockade began on April 13th, while 135 ships have been redirected and 42 humanitarian vessels have been allowed to pass. India is also now directly affected. New Delhi says 13 Indian flagged vessels are stranded in the Strait of Hormuz, with 562 Indian seafarers on board. More than 18,000 Indian seafarers are currently in the Gulf region. India's foreign ministry says attacks on shipping must stop, especially after 3 Indian nationals were killed in a US attack on an oil tanker in the Gulf. New Delhi has also summoned the US Deputy Chief of Mission and logged to a strong protest. The latest developments show how quickly this conflict is widening. US strikes on Iran have triggered fresh warnings from Tehran. Iran's retaliation has alarmed Gulf states. Shipping through the Strait of Hormuz and the Gulf of Oman is under growing pressure, and countries from Pakistan and Turkey to China and Russia are now urging a return to talks.